Alright, hello everyone and welcome to a brand new video. In today's video, we've got something very exciting for you guys. We have a beginner's guide to Belo Betty. What we're going to do in this video is going to be very simple. We're going to go over some of the key cards, the general game plan, and all the good stuff that you need to get started with Belo Betty. As of course, Belo Betty, getting closer to OP11, Belo Betty is going to be one of the strongest deck in the format. It's good as time as any to pick it up. It's a very cheap deck, right? It's easy to learn, and it's very few steps that you need to follow. So I figured I'd get this guide out for you guys, so the people that want to pick it up can pick it up and do so easily. But let's jump into the actual guide, right? So what we're going to go over today is we're going to go over the key cards, right? We're going to just quickly, explain what they do and why they're so strong, and what kind of sequencing you're supposed to do with them. The general game plan, which is really not that hard, right? We're going to go over how you actually get somewhere with this deck and what you're supposed to do with the cards. And then we're gonna go over the win condition as well, right? Every deck needs a win condition, and this deck is, it's different from a lot of decks, but it's not that different. We still need a win condition, and we're gonna go over how to get there as well. So this is an example deck list here for you. This is a deck that I'm running. It's pretty damn standard at this point. I have like some cards that are a little iffy, maybe like not in every deck list, but this is a very good starting place, and it runs a bunch of 4-offs, right? Not as techy as other certain decks are, right? And this is a great starting point if you want to get into Belo Betty. And as you can see, the only really like expensive card on here is like gonna be Koala, the 2 super rare koalas, right? And these are like probably the cheapest super rares in the game. They're gonna probably run you like $1 or 2 for a playset. So like this deck is so incredibly cheap, right? And we're going to talk more about the full deck list at the end of the guide, because we're going to jump into one game as well and just show you how it's done. And right before there, we'll actually talk about every card individually. But what we're going to do now is we're going to talk just about the key cards. And the key cards in this deck, of course, starts with the Belo Betty leader. Can't have the deck without the leader. And we need to, of course, explain what the leader effect is, because it is one of the strongest leader effects in the game. You see people always crying about it online, going like, how is this a fair leader effect? This is so dumb. Shut the fuck up. So what the leader effect is activate main once per turn. You may trash one Revolutionary Army type card from your hand. And then you can give up to 3 of your characters that are Revolutionary Army type or that have a trigger plus 3,000 power for the turn. So ideally, that's plus 9,000 power for the cost of 1 single card out of hand. These days, basically every list in the game is running only Revolutionary Army type cards. So you really don't have to worry about the whole like trigger part here, right? It's not really going to be relevant. It's mostly when you're doing deck building yourself, right? You can consider that cards with trigger that aren't Revolutionary Army type cards still do get boosted, right? But in general, all of your decks, your entire deck is going to be Rev Army, right? So you needn't worry about all these limitations, right? The gist of it is you trash 1 card, boost everything, 3 characters by 3,000, right? Other than that, we have the Belo Betty Searcher, right? This is one of the most important cards in the deck. What it is, it's a 1 cost, 2k, 1k counter. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck, reveal up to 1 Rev Army card other than Belo Betty, and add it to your hand. Which is just a normal searcher, right? Just a normal top 5 searcher. But the reason it is so powerful in Belo Betty is because we're trashing cards from our hand, right? So we want to make sure that we can play out characters and get cards in like back in our hand, right? This is a ±0. And after you use the effect of our leader on this card, it actually becomes a 5k swing. Which 5k is that magic sweet spot where, all of a sudden I can swing into my opponent's leader now, which is incredibly powerful, right? So even like a 1 cost body like this can be such a huge threat to our opponents. That is why this card is super important, and obviously it's important to find your pieces as well. Among those pieces, you're probably going to see things like 4 cost Ivankov here. This is right after Belo Betty, the strongest card in the deck, in my opinion. What this card is a 4-cost 5k 1k counter with the effect Activate Main. Once per turn, if this character has 7,000 power or more, you can play up to one Revolutionary Army type character with 5,000 power or less from your hand. So basically what this says, right, is if you use leader effect or you attach to it on or you boost it in any other way, you can now cheat out a Revolutionary Army card from your hand. And almost all of our Rev Army cards are going to be 5,000 or less, so we can cheat out the majority of our deck, and that is going to be incredibly powerful. One of those cards that it can cheat out is going to be Karasu. Okay, Karasu is also one of the strongest cards in the deck. What this card does is it's a 4-cost 5k 1k counter. On play, if your leader has a Revolutionary Army type, which Belo Betty does, give up to one of your opponent's leader or character cards minus 1,000 power for this turn. And if you're a good reader, you might have been able to catch that this card can give minus 1,000 to our opponent's leader, which is an incredibly rare effect. It's basically the only effect in the game right now that does this on our turn. There are counter cards that does it, but Karasu is the only thing that is able to do this on your own turn, right? So it's an aggressive minus 1,000 to your opponent's leader, and that is just the on play, right? It still has the when attacking, which is if this character has 7,000 power or more, give up to one of your opponent's leader or character cards minus 1,000 power. So it's the same effect, again, both on play and when attacking, right? Bit different limitations, right? On the on play, you need a Rev Army leader. When attacking, you need 7,000 power or more, but it's literally the same attack, same effect, right? You give minus 1,000 to your opponent's leader, which makes all of your other swings basically more powerful. And then we have one more card we're going to go over, and that is going to be 5-cost Ivankov. 5-cost Ivankov is a 5-cost 6k counterless card that says on play, look at the top 3 cards of your deck and play out one Revolutionary Army type character with 5,000 power or more. The reason this card is incredibly strong, right, is because it's similar to this Ivankov, but it boosts. It plays off the top of the deck, right, instead of from your hand, which means it's minus 1 in hand to go +2 on board, which is incredibly powerful, right? So this card is just incredibly powerful, especially because you can also play this Ivankov from it, right? This is in Japanese now, but it doesn't limit itself to not playing Ivankovs like most cards do, right? They say, hey, you can't play itself, right? But the reason it can't play itself is because it's 6k or more, and it plays 5k or more or less, right? But this Ivankov is 5k or less, which means you can play it out. So those are the key cards I wanted to go over, like the main engine of the deck. Now let's jump into the game plan and see, what you're supposed to do with these cards. And the game plan is pretty simple. Hit them hard and fast and in the face, right? Belo Betty is one of the most aggressive decks in the game, if not the most aggressive. And there are going to be times when you have to make the decision of swinging either face or on the board. That is going to be a bit more, decision making and stuff, a little bit more high tech, complicated, right? And something you're gonna learn as you get more experience with the deck. But in a beginner's guide like this, hit them hard and fast in the face. It works, right? You apply so much pressure, and they're forced to counter because they're not trying to die. And then they put in an awkward spot where they have no cards in hand, and you still have a big board, and you just hit them really fast and really hard in the face by boosting basically every turn. And if they don't have the removal or the answers to deal with your board, then you're just going to be in a great spot. So the way we do this is that on turn 1, we want to make sure that we get a body out, all right? And these are some of the bodies, right? We have Belo Betty, which we talked about before, right? Which is a 1-cost 2k that becomes a 5k after you boost it, so you can swing with that. Kuma is the same stat line here as a 2-cost 2k, and on play you can KO a 2k or less, which is, searchers, right? So you can drop this on 2 and then just go, you pop their searcher, right? Which is pretty good. And then we have Koala here, which is a 2-cost 3k, also a 2k counter, that gives minus 3,000 power to something, which won't be relevant on the first turn, but it is still a good body because it's a 2-cost 3k, right? So it's fairly big. I should also mention, I haven't mentioned this yet, you want to go second with this deck. Basically, the curve going second is just better. We're going to go over the curves a little bit more right after this slide, basically. But going second is going to be a lot more powerful because you can get your forecast out on curve. But the general game plan, of course, get something out on turn 1, and then find Ivankov to play out on turn 2. Because then you can play Ivankov, and then you can bring something out with the Ivankov to be super aggressive. And I'm going to show you an example of what this is going to look like in an actual game. So, turn 1, you play the Belo Betty, right? And if you don't have Ivankov already, you're going to try and find your Ivankov off the search. And if you already have the Ivankov, you know you can grab something else. So you can grab that Karasu, or you can grab, even you can grab a Race Max, which is another 1-cost Rev Army card, which you can play out on turn 1 as well. There are a bunch of options that you can grab, but mainly you're going to be looking for this 4-cost Ivankov. And then turn 2, you're going to play out that Ivankov, so your board's going to look a little bit like this. You're going to use your leader effect to pitch a card from your hand to give plus 3,000 to both of these characters. Now, you can use that Ivankov's effect, which is if it has 7,000 power or more, you can play out a thing, right? And you'll do that, you'll play out Karasu to give minus 1,000 power to your opponent's leader. And now, when you swing with this Belo Betty here, this is going to be 5k into a 4k leader, right? Demanding a 2k. And so is your leader swing. So now you're demanding 2 2ks on your turn 2 while establishing 2 5k bodies with incredible effects, right? So an incredibly strong turn 2 play, but you'll see it more often than not. Then your turn 3, right? Assuming that they swung into your Belo Betty and got rid of that, which they would, and assuming that they weren't able to deal with any of these, which some decks can, some decks can't, right? Your board is going to look something like this. And you're going to be playing the 5-cost Ivankov, because now you're on 6 Dawn, right? You can play the 5-cost Ivankov, and you can play it into something, right? You can play something off the top of your deck. There's a bunch of cards that you can play, right? The one I used in this example is going to be Rush Inazuma, because it's simply a card that gets Rush when you boost like another character, right? And so what you do here is you do like this, and then you boost everything, and now you have an 8k swing, an 8k swing, and a 7k swing, and you're giving minus 1,000 to your opponent's leader, right? And you can still cheat something out with the Ivankov. And so this, like, from here, the game is basically over, right? Because you can push so incredibly hard on your turn 4 that, like, there's just too much pressure, right? So this, like, you seals the deal against most decks, and then, you needn't worry about anything else from there. So that's kind of what the curve can look like and should look like. There's, of course, variations, but generally this is the game plan, right? And then we're going to talk quickly about the win condition, right? Winning with this deck is one thing, right? And the first most important thing, right, is that you need to spam out bodies, right? If you don't have the swings, like, you need to make sure your board is wide so that when you use your leader effect, you actually get maximum value off of it, right? If I have no characters out, or maybe just one character out so that I can swing, all of a sudden it's not really worth for me to use that leader effect, and that's going to slow down my tempo something immensely. You want to make sure that your body's your board is always big enough that your leader effect next turn is going to have value, right? So the main goal is going to be to spam out bodies using these Ivankovs here, and then the next goal is going to be use Karasu and Rush to apply pressure. Like I mentioned before, if you apply pressure to your opponent's life, or like their life, right, it's going to be pressure on their life and also their hand at the same time, because they're going to be forced to counter out of swings that they don't feel comfortable countering out of, right? We're talking about 5k into a 4k leader, boom, demands a 2k. 8k into a 4k leader, demands fucking 2 2ks and a 1k. Like, you're demanding so many cards, and they have to give you the cards, because if they don't, they just die. And that is such, that's good pressure, right? that you can, you know, keep doing that, and then you win the game from that, right? It's sort of an advantage thing where you keep gaining card advantage on them because they're forced to use their cards on the defensive, right? And then the third win condition is, of course, push for lethal. This is something I'll show you more in depth in the actual game, but pushing for lethal is something you have to learn, right? It goes like, you can just look up any video on how to push for lethal, but in this deck you can do it earlier than most other decks, and that's something you have to practice on. But generally on turn 4 to 5 is where you should be comfortable pushing for lethal, at least against most decks. There's some 5-life leaders out there that are very defensive, right? Something like Shanks, if they see Lucky Roo, something like Galucci, you're gonna have to drag that out a little bit longer, and instead of pushing for lethal, just keep establishing bodies, right? But these are the win conditions. It's not that hard, right? You just spam out bodies, use these cards to gain card advantage and pressure, right? And then just finish them off. It's a very simple game plan, right? So what we're going to do now is we're going to jump into the deck list. I'll show you exactly what every card does and why they are in the deck, and then we'll jump into the game. Alright, so this is the deck list here. It's the same one as I showed you before. We got the Belo Betty leader, and then we have this 3-cost Inazuma here, which is a 3-cost 4k, 1k counter. If a character you control other than this character has a power of 7,000 or more, this character gains Rush. Basically, he always has Rush, like almost always. There's going to be very few situations where this like is the only thing on board, right, and it won't get Rush, or you have 2 small characters on the board and they won't get Rush. But that's very, very rare. Don't really worry about that at this point. And the fun fact about this card is that you can play 2 of these and boost them both, and they go to 7k, right? And then they give each other Rush, because the wording is, right, if a character you control other than this character, so not other than like Inazuma, right, it's other than this specific card. So even if the other card is another Inazuma, it still makes the effect go off. Basically a 3-cost rusher that you can cheat out with the Ivankovs as well as this Koala here. 4-cost Ivankov we went over. Just use this to cheat out your other 5k or less characters. Karasu we went over as well, super strong card. Koala, it's a 2k counter that is searchable, that also has a very cool effect, right? It's a reducer, so it works good with your on KO effects, which you do have 2, and we'll go over those as well. But having a reducer that is also a 2k is really powerful. And Kuma is one of those things that KO things, right? It KOs a character with 2k or less, and it also has a trigger that lets us play it for free, right? Just another good turn 1 play. And then we have Belo Betty that we went over, super strong searcher, right? One of the powerhouses off the deck. If you can see 2 of these on turn 1, you're golden, right? You're winning that game. And then we have Morley here. I play Morley only because it has a trigger. Of course, it is a 3-down character, so if you are going first, this is pretty good to see on turn 1. But it is just, you know, a trigger card, right? This, since it has no counter, you're usually going to pitch this for leader effect if you have this in hand. But coming out of life, it is very powerful and can catch a lot of people off guard, because the effect is that when attacking, if it has 7,000 power or more, your opponent cannot activate blocker during this battle. So it's unblockable, right? Which can catch a lot of people off guard, and it can be really strong in certain situations. Lindbergh here is another super underrated card, one of the stronger cards that you can cheat out of with the Ivankovs. When attacking, if this character has 7,000 power or more, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with 3,000 power or less. Which 3,000 power or less, right? It's not super impressive, right? There's not that many things that are going to be 3,000 power or less. But in the combination with something that reduces power, now all of a sudden you're hitting 6k or less, which that's like a lot of bodies that you're hitting at that point. It can be really good control option to slow down your opponent while gaining yourself some pace as well, right? 5-cost Ivankov we talked about. Look at top 3, play a Rev Army from there with 5,000 power or less. Super strong spam out card. Incredibly strong going first as well. Just a great card. Race Max here, it's kind of a funky one, right? Because this is not like a real Revolutionary Army type character. He's in a movie, so he's like non-canon, but he is still Revolutionary Army tagged, which is super important, right? Because it means that you can discard him for leader effect, and that he can be boosted with the leader effect as well. So basically he's in here because he's a 1-drop, right? which means going second, you'll have 2 Dawn. Hopefully, you'll start with this, and then ideally, you start with 2 of these, but you can also go this and raise max, right, on the same turn, which is incredibly powerful, right? And that's why we have him here. Just kind of an increase on our turn 1 play to just have that be more consistent. But it also has that activate main that it can bottom deck itself to give minus 3,000 power to something this turn, which can combo well with things like Lindbergh and Kuma. Then we're running 4 of these Karasu blocker here. Blockers are pretty interesting in this deck because you don't really need them, but there are going to be times where you have like a rested board of characters you want to protect. Something like Ivankov, something like Karasu, like Lindbergh. And if they just swing big into that, normally you have to give that up. But then you can play something like the blocker right before that can help defend your characters. And at the end of the day, it does have the trigger that if your leader has a revolutionary army type and the total of you and your opponent's life is 5 or less, you can play this card. Which, you know, can come in super clutch. It does come up very often that it is in one of your last lives, comes out as a blocker and saves you from dying. So very strong card as well. 6-cost Koala here is just basically an alternate to this Ivankov. What it does is it's a 6-cost 6k counterless blocker. On play, you can add the top card of your life to your hand, play a 4-cost or less revolutionary army type character from your hand, and then draw a card. Which, you know, what you do, right, is you spam out characters, right? That's like the point of the game. But there are a lot of matchups, or not, there's not a lot of matchups. There's a lot of people who think that you can starve Belo Betty, right? And what that means is they're going to avoid swinging into you, swinging into your life to avoid you from getting resources, because with those resources, you're able to play out characters faster, more, stronger, better, discard, boost, whatever you want to do, right? But if you run out of cards, then there's not much you can do. This card basically prevents that. You play this on 6th Dawn, take 1 of your life, right? Play out a thing, and then draw a card, and it just gives you a bunch of resources. It's ±0 in hand while establishing 2 things on board, right? And you can establish this Ivankov, which then can cheat out something else. Incredibly strong card, especially when people are trying to starve you as well. Then we have this 7-cost Sabo here. This is mainly, to me, run mainly for the trigger. The trigger is draw 2 cards, which is incredibly powerful. If you hit this off a trigger, you feel so good. You're like, okay, this game is mine. Very strong trigger. And the effect is not that bad either. It's a 7-cost, 7k, 1k counter. On play, place up to 1 Rev Army type character from your hand on top of your life face up. Then, if you have 2 or more life, put the top or bottom card of your life into your hand. Basically, what this says, right, is that if you have 0 life and use this effect, you get to heal 1. But if you have more than 0 life, if you have 1, 2, 3 life, then when you place a card into your life, you have to take another card to your hand. This card works really well in combination with Karasu. If you're at like 1 or 2 life, you know, just use this, heal the Karasu, take the other card to hand, and you have now this blocker that is going to play out for free, preventing your opponent from pushing lethal, right? And if you do manage to pull this off at 0 life, then it's literally a heal and a blocker coming out of life for 7 Dawn while establishing a 7k body, right? So it's niche, but it's a very good card, and the trigger is, like I said, incredibly strong. And then we're looking at this Kuma here. This is a 4-cost 5k, 2k counter, Rev Army. If your leader has the Rev Army type and the total of your and your opponent's life cards is 5 or less, play this card trigger, right? The reason you really run this is just to increase consistency on your Ivankovs, right? Ivankovs and Koalas and stuff like that. The trigger very, very, very rarely comes up. But it being a 4-cost 5k with 2k counter is powerful. But there are going to be other options as you're watching this video. Let's see, red and yellow. There's going to be this Sabo here that was released in EB02. Which is probably going to be better than this Kuma. Basically, it doesn't have a trigger, but it has that activate main that you can rest this character up to 1 of your Revel Army characters other than Sabo, gains plus 2,000 power during this turn. So this is probably more versatile since this trigger almost never comes up. This has the same stat line, you know, all that. Pretty good. There's also this promo Schoolboy Sabo here, which is a 5 cost, which means it can't be cheated out of Koala, but it is a 5k, so it can still be cheated out with the Ivankovs. And this effect is that it's an activate main, put the top card of your life, into your hand, and then this card gains plus 1000 power. And just like Koala, this is mainly used as anti-starve tech, especially against something like Blackbeard, since it's an activate main. You can use this, as well, right? Because what they do is they negate your own place, so you can't take your own life with Koala. Therefore, it's good to have another option to do that, to just give you more resources. So those are like the 2k options over this. But that is going to be the deck list. Let's jump into an actual game. All right, so we're going to go up against Green Purple Luffy here, which is the best deck in the format right now. And we're going to choose to go second, like I said. This is probably not a good enough hand to keep. What you're looking for is a turn 1 and then Ivankov, right? We're going to mulligan this, and this is slightly better, I'd say. If you want to know more about mulligans, then I have another guide that is more of an in-depth, more competitive guide to Belo Betty on this channel as well. I'll try to link that in the description below as well, where I talk more again about mulligans and stuff. But we're going to start playing out this Kuma here. The reason we play out Kuma over Koala is because Koala's a 2k, right? So we'd rather keep that in hand. The power difference is not going to be that relevant right now. But yeah, not great. Another tip here is that you should always be taking the first couple of hits, just in case you trigger something. And of course, you want that resource as well, right? So we're drawing a little bit awkwardly here. We didn't find our Ivankov, which is obviously your goal here. But we are going to play out this Lindbergh here. And just pass. Like I said before, if you only have like one character to boost, it's not really worth boosting, right? But we're still looking decent here. I mean, he's not really doing anything. But he's going to find his on-curve removal here in this Sorrow. And unfortunately, I think we're going to have to let that stick. Because we can't quite afford to defend things right now. Because it's going to be 5/5/5 into it. And we just can't afford to defend all that. We'll see what he does here. He's going to use a Searcher, okay. And he's going to use this again, even though he doesn't get anything from it. He's going to pass, okay, so he's not going to swing one more time in my life. Interesting. So now I have the option, do I want to go Koala or do I want to go Ivankov? And the general tip I can give to you is like when you have a good hand, go Koala. When you have a bad hand, go Ivankov, right? Because going Koala here, what would that get me, right? I would cheat out this. That's not very optimal. I would much rather do this and see if I could have hit something better. I couldn't. But I do still have the option of going here, so I can go more controlly on this. But I don't think I need to. I think I'm better off going to 6. And I'm going to go into this. I know I said you can go face, but this is one of those times because I had such a slow start where you kind of want to pivot into board a little bit so that they don't out-pressure you. We're still on a decent spot here. He's going to go Luffy Taro into Sorojuro. That is also still fine. He's still... Does he get this now? He does. Okay, so he's +2 costing. But that doesn't do us anything because we don't care about cost. And he's still not going to swing at us. Okay, interesting. Now I'm intrigued, right? And might want to go Koala here. But I think I'm going to go Ivankov again. And we're going to hit this Karasu, which is really good. Because now we can bring him down and we can boost here and get a lot of value from this boost. So what we're going to do is we're going to swing 6k into his leader. That is now 4k, demanding a 2k and a 1k. He's going to take. We're going to go 7k. So now it demands 2 2ks. And then we're going to go 8. And that demands 2 2ks and a 1k. And then we're going to go 9, which demands 3 2ks. And he's going to take that as well. And now you see he's in a spot where he has no life, not enough characters on board to kill me. And he doesn't really have the resources still. I know he has a lot of resources, but he doesn't really have the resources to defend himself either. But I'm sure he's going to be able to clear out my board here if he wants to. But next turn we will simply go this Inazuma, and we will have 3 characters to swing with, and one of them being Karasu is going to be incredibly powerful. That chopper is a little bit annoying, but if we can find something like a Kuma, you know, that's not going to be a problem. We'll see here. So he's going to swing. We're going to let that go, I do believe. We do have a decent amount of counter in hand, so we can try to defend these as well. He's going to need to leave a lot of Dawn up for Giants. He's going to go 7 into that. I think we're going to give him that one too. And we'll just hard defend this instead. So we will defend that. And he's going to go 7 into it, and we'll defend that as well. Now, hopefully we can find a Kuma off the top here. That would be incredible. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. We'll play this Kuma, pop this chopper. We will not play out this Inazuma here, I don't think. Don't think that's going to get me enough value. Actually, let's do it. We'll go like this, minusing him here, forcing 3k counter of his hand. Of course he has that, but we're going to do this. We'll go 7k again. He's going to Giant. That makes sense. I expect him to have double Giant here. Which means that now that I go 8, he's going to Giant again. Oh, wow. Okay, he didn't Giant, so he doesn't have a second Giant, it seems. We're going to go 9k, and that should be game then. It is. All right. So as you saw, even with a very non-optimal start, we're still able to apply so much pressure that he's not quite able to keep up. And as you can see here, we did have a Karasu blocker here, so he might not even have been able to kill us next turn, which is a little bit funny. Like we could have pivoted into board there and dealt with that as well, but going face usually just works, right? It's a very powerful deck. Boosting things to 9k for basically free is so powerful. So that's just how you deal with the strongest deck in the game. But that is going to be it for today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed. Here is the deck list if you want to check it out, copy it, try it for yourself. And I mean, hopefully you learned something. If you did, please do leave a like down below. That way I know that you enjoy these type of videos and I can do more of them. And subscribe as well if you want to see more content. And if you put on that bell right next to the subscribe button, you will get notified whenever I post, and you can be the first to see content like this when it comes out. Other than that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.